Hello guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. I'm Ishani and in today's video I'll be sharing some techniques that helped me and will definitely help you learn and memorize things 10x faster. Now this video is not only for the students out there but for professionals or for people who are in any stage of their lives and are willing to learn and improve upon themselves. The disclaimer before I begin the video is that yes, some tips or techniques are gonna sound cliche. You must have heard them somewhere or the other, but that again is a very mysterious thing about human nature, about human psychology कि जब तक हमें एक ही चीज को बार बार स्ट्रेस कर कर सुनाया नहीं जाता है ना, तब तक हमारे दिमाग में वो बैठती नहीं है. So I want you guys to watch this video till the end and make a promise to yourselves that you will be imbibing at least two of these techniques that I've mentioned in your daily learning life so that you can see the improvements upon yourself. Beginning with the first one, active recall. So what is active recall actually? So in active recall, what we try to do is we try to retrieve the information that we have already learned from our memory instead of rereading the texts over and over again, opening the books again and reading them all over again. What we do is we try to retrieve the information which has already been stored in our minds. So इसको हम practically कैसे apply करेंगे? Say for example, you read an article in a newspaper. After you've read that article, just keep the newspaper away, okay, and you might close your eyes or you might keep them open, whichever way you feel it easy to remember things. And then after that you start speaking loudly all the information that you can remember from that article that you have read, like you're explaining it to someone else. This is also known as Feynman technique, wherein you pretend that you're a teacher and you're teaching to a bunch of students and you try to make them understand things in very really simple terms. तो अगर आप एक concept को बहुत ही simple language में किसी को explain कर पा रहे हो, it is a solid proof that you have understood the concept from the very basics. So this is exactly what you're supposed to do in active recall. टेक्स्ट को बार बार पढ़ने से बेटर ये रहता है कि आपने एक बार टेक्स्ट पढ़ा, उसको साइड में रखो एंड ट्राई टू रिकॉल, एक्टिवली रिकॉल, रिट्रीव वट एवर यू कैन रिमेंबर. उससे क्या होगा? इट डीपन्स योर अंडरस्टैंडिंग. व्हेन यू विल बी recalling the things, you will be able to understand कि आप क्या क्या चीजें recall नहीं कर पा रहे हो. So this way you will be able to identify the gaps in your learning and then the next time you read the text आप उन चीजों पे ज्यादा फोकस करोगे जिनको आप रिकॉल करते टाइम रिकॉल नहीं कर पाए थे. So the benefits of active recall is that you will be able to increase your memory power, you will be able to understand the gaps in your learning, and it will also deepen your understanding of the concepts. And this way you'll be able to learn your concepts and things, especially really long paragraphs or speeches आपको remember करनी है. तो active recall is a great way. That's how we remember speeches, right? हम पहले एक बार speech पढ़ते हैं, उसको याद करने की कोशिश करते हैं, उनको साइड में रखकर imagine करते हैं that the bedroom is our stage and हम उसको बोलते हैं जोर जोर से. And that way हम जहाँ पे भी अटकते हैं ना speech में, we're able to understand कि okay, this is the part of the speech जहाँ पे मैं शायद अटक सकता हूँ, तो आप उसको बार बार practice करते हो. So that is exactly what active recall is. Number 2, we have active note taking. Now note taking in today's era is such an underrated practice to do. We always like कि घर जाके, if we are a student, हम स्कूल में नोट्स नहीं बनाते हैं, बोलते हैं कि घर जाके देख लेंगे, खुद बना लेंगे नोट्स. But in the reality, real time note taking, active note taking while the teacher is teaching, you can make रफ नोट्स. लाइक ऐसे भी रफ नोट्स नहीं होने चाहिए कि आपको समझ ही ना आए. दे शुड बी अंडरस्टैंडेबल. यू कैन यूज एक्रोनिम्स to shorten your notes, and actively note banana is a great way to retain things, because that way you actively listen to what the teacher is actually teaching, not only for students but if you are a professional who's trying to learn a new skill and you're doing it through an online course, उसमें भी जो आपके instructors है, you have to make your own notes in your own register diary alongside their teaching, because this way what you actually do is you're doing two things at the same time. You're listening to what your teacher is saying and you are interpreting it in your own words and writing it down in your notebook. So this way your understanding will be deepened and आप ज़्यादा उस particular lecture को देखने के बाद, उस particular class को attend करने के बाद आप ज़्यादा चीज़ें retain कर पाओगे if you write them down. And active note taking, आपको सिर्फ paragraphs ही नहीं लिखने हैं while you're making notes, because then it will not really be very helpful because आप वही लिखे जा रहे हो जो टीचर बोले जा रहे हैं, and then you will not feel like reading it again when it comes to revision time. So you can make mind maps, you can underline the stuff. So you can use colorful pens as well, like not so many colorful pens, but a few colorful pens so that you can highlight the important things. You can write headings, subheadings, flowcharts, mind maps, keywords. All of these things can be laid special emphasis on in your notes because not really everything is important. And जब आप क्लास में नोट्स बनाते हो, टीचर डेफिनेटली सेज वन और टू थिंग्स दैट आर एक्सट्रीमली इंपॉर्टेंट, तो आप उनको अलग से एम्फोसाइज करके लिख सकते हो. दे मस्ट बी क्लियर, स्मूथ एंड इन अ फॉर्मेट, राइट. हेडिंग होनी चाहिए, सब हेडिंग होनी चाहिए, एंड देन वो टेक्स्ट लिखा होना चाहिए. And then if there are some formulas, you can write down the formulas. It should be in a systematic manner. I know पहले कुछ टाइम क्लासेस जब आप अटेंड करोगे, मेकिंग नोट्स while the teacher is saying becomes very difficult, but with practice you will master the art of active note taking and you'll see कि आप क्लास से maximum निकाल पा रहे हो जितना आप सिर्फ सुनने में निकाल पा रहे थे. Thirdly, we have creating mnemonics. Now this one is personally my favorite because I've used it a lot. Especially you can relate if you have been a commerce student and आपने business studies पढ़ा हुआ है. There were so many advantages, disadvantages, features of each and everything that you had to remember. So mnemonics की मदद से it used to become really easy to retrieve the information in the future. Mnemonics होता क्या है? So you have a bunch of information that you need to remember, and it is like in a paragraph form, a very unorganized. So when you organize that information into something which is very easy for you to recall, that is what is a mnemonic. For example, mnemonics आप बहुत अलग अलग तरीके से बना सकते हो. Like whatever is easier for you to recall or remember, आप उसको associate कर दो उस information से जो originally आपको याद रखनी थी. तो उसकी मदद से आप उस information तक पहुंच पाओगे if you remember the thing which was already very easy for you to remember. For example, if you remember बैक इन आर यंगर डेज जब हमें रेनबो के कलर याद करने होते थे तो हमारी टीचर ने हमें एक निमोनिक सिखाया था, दैट इज विब ग्योर, राइट. एंड दिस इज एन एक्रोनिम जो कि निमोनिक की तरह काम करता है, वेर इन द इनिशियल ऑफ ईच एंड एवरी कलर ऑफ द रेनबो, वायलेट का वी, इंडिगो का आई, से हमने विबग्योर वर्ड बनाया था जिससे हमें रेनबो के हर एक कलर याद रहते थे. दिस इज एन एग्जाम्पल ऑफ अ निमोनिक. सिमिलरली हम सेंटेंसेस भी बना सकते हैं. फॉर एग्जाम्पल इफ यू रिमेंबर रिएक्टिविटी सीरीज याद करने के लिए, इट वॉज केदारनाथ का माली आलू जरा फीके पकाता है. You can see that this particular sentence is so easy to remember and इससे reactivity series आपकी आधी sort हो जाती है. केदारनाथ का K is actually for potassium, then so it was Kedarnath ka mali आलू जरा फीके पकाता है. Now you can see that this is such an easy statement to remember and इससे आपकी आधी reactivity series sort हो जाती है. Because Kedar का K is actually for potassium and then Nath का Na is for sodium. So ऐसे करके if you would have gone directly in remembering these elements in a particular order, it would have been difficult. तो मैंने एक sentence frame कर लिया अपने दिमाग में. This is a very famous mnemonic. आप खुद का भी बना सकते हो. Anything which you find interesting and easy to remember, you can just keep it to yourself. अपने notes में उसको लिख सकते हो ताकि आपको हमेशा वो चीज़ें याद रहें. Especially अगर हम बात करें किसी चीज़ के फीचर की, राइट, तो हम जो एक जैसे पॉइंट्स, लाइक इफ यू हैव 10 पॉइंटर्स, सो द थिंग इज दैट एक्चुअली वो 10 पॉइंटर्स में से ना सिर्फ 5 पॉइंटर्स यूनिक होते हैं, बाकी सब ना उन्हीं पॉइंटर्स का अलग सा ऑल्टर्ड वर्जन होता है. फॉर एग्जाम्पल स्टेबिलिटी ऑफ डिविडेंड एक पर्टिकुलर फीचर की बात करते हैं हम, देन स्टेबिलिटी ऑफ अर्निंग्स एक दूसरे फीचर की बात करते हैं. दोनों अलग अलग फीचर्स. इफ यू स्टडीड बिजनेस स्टडीज, आपको पता होगा कि ये दोनों अलग अलग फीचर्स है ऑफ मेकिंग अ डिविडेंड डिसीजन, लेकिन देर वेरी मच रिलेटेड टू ईच अदर. तो आप उन दोनों को साथ में क्लब कर कर याद कर सकते हो. लाइक मिक्स करने की जरूरत नहीं है, बट जब आपको उनके याद रखना है, पॉइंटर्स हेडिंग्स को याद रखना है, तो आप उनको साथ में क्लब करके याद रख सकते हो. क्योंकि स्टेबिलिटी ऑफ डिविडेंड्स वाज देयर एंड वन मोर वेरी मच सिमिलर वाज देयर, दैट इज स्टेबिलिटी ऑफ अर्निंग्स. एंड सिमिलरली इसमें आप ज्योग्राफी के फीचर्स याद कर सकते हो, सिमिलर फीचर्स को साथ में क्लब करके. देन यू रियलाइज कि उसमें से 10 में से 5 ही बन रहे हैं यूनिक, एंड इन 5 के बाकी हमारे क्या है, उनसे रिलेटेड है, तो वो तो हमें याद रहेंगे. अगर हमें मेजर वाला याद रहेगा तो हमें माइनर वाला याद तो रहेगा ही. So these are the techniques that you can make. You can make a song out of your textbook. आपको अगर song से याद रहता है तो I remember learning the periodic table के 20 starting with 20 elements in the form of a song. Similarly, learning the French alphabets in the form of a song. And trust me, I haven't even forgotten them yet, जबकि मुझे 2-3 साल हो गए उनको वापस पढ़े हुए. So yeah, mnemonics actually have been so helpful for me. Fourthly, we have skimming. Now, skimming is another technique जो कि हमें रिविजन के टाइम पे एंड चीज़ों को अच्छे से रिमेंबर एंड रिकॉल करने के लिए काफ़ी ज़्यादा मददगार साबित होती है. सो इन स्किमिंग व्हाट यू डू इज आपकी मोटी सी किताब है, यू जस्ट ओपन इट एंड उसमें से एक चैप्टर खोलो विच एवर यू वांट टू रिवाइज. You turn the pages and you just, what do? You don't read each and everything. What you do is you just read the headings and see कि okay, if you know the things related to the heading, and then you read the subheadings, and then अपने दिमाग में सोचो if you know the things related to the subheadings. अगर आप कहीं भी stuck feel करते हो, then only read that particular section. Otherwise, just skim through the book once. Just look at all the things जो आपने अपने highlighter से underline करी होगी the first time you read that chapter. Look at all those pencil marks, pencils जो आपने short notes बना रखे हैं in the side margins of your book. Just read them, read the headings, the subheadings, look at the diagrams, and just skim through the chapter in 10 to 15 minutes. This is such a great way of revision and is such a great way of testing your memory and improving it. In this, you're just looking at the key terms, the keywords, and if you are able to revise the keywords once, उससे associated पूरा paragraph आपके subconscious दिमाग में load हो जाता है. Next up, test yourself. So you can basically test yourself at home and not only wait for tests at your school or college, but testing and measuring your performance at home becomes equally important. Just memorizing and learning things and then not revising it वापस से कभी, not testing yourself how much of it you're able to retain, will make all of your efforts go in vain. Now, the best way to test yourself is by testing yourself on the basis of right questions. And where do you find those right questions from? I've always been suggesting Oswaal question banks for my juniors out there in school, 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th grade. Because as school students, we need to understand the value and importance of solving the right set of questions, the PYQs which have been asked, the frequently asked questions, or the most important questions, especially when the pattern of the exams has been changing a lot over the past few years. Competency has been introduced to a great extent. So we have a new product by Oswaal as well. It's a competency question focused book जिसमें चारों के चारों सब्जेक्ट्स के कॉम्पिटेंसी क्वेश्चंस आपको एक ही बुक में कंपाइल करके दे रखे हैं. सो इफ यू प्रैक्टिस दिस बुक, आई थिंक दैट देयर इज नो वे आपको कॉम्पिटेंसी का क्वेश्चन समझ नहीं आएगा. So this way you can improve your competency, and I've already introduced you the question banks of Oswaal and One for All books as well, जिससे आप right set of questions practice कर सकते हैं. I've attached the link in the description box below. Do check them out. And अगर आपको review चाहिए तो you can watch my previous videos as well, wherein I have given a sneak peek into One for All and Oswaal के question banks. In today's video, I'm gonna give you guys a sneak peek into this new launch that is competency questions. So you guys can check it out as well if you like it. So in CBSE Competency Focused Questions Book, which is specifically for class 10th, हमें तीनों subjects के competency focused questions एक ही जगह पे compile होके मिलते हैं for science, social science and mathematics. So I'll give you guys a sneak peek into any one of those chapters. So we have forest and wildlife resources from geography. सबसे पहले core concepts बहुत ही concise manner में. See, competency questions are just like normal questions. आपको MCQs देखने को मिल सकता है कॉम्पिटेंसी बेस्ड में, बट द थिंग दैट मेक्स देम डिफरेंट इज दैट इसमें एप्लीकेबिलिटी ज्यादा होती है. इसमें आपकी अंडरस्टैंडिंग, डीप अंडरस्टैंडिंग चेक करने की कोशिश करी होती है. सो दीस MCQs आर क्यूरेटेड इन दैट वे जिससे आपकी डीप अंडरस्टैंडिंग टेस्ट हो सके. वी हैव मैच्ड द फॉलोइंग क्वेश्चंस: assertion reason, statement based, image based. These questions are very frequently asked nowadays, especially from the activity वाला box जो हमें दिया होता है, especially in physics and chemistry. तो तीनों के तीनों subjects के लिए such sort of questions बहुत ही concise manner में इस book में provide करे गए हैं. And if you go through these competency questions once, I don't think कि किसी भी हट के जो question आता है हमारे exam में जो हमारे 5 से 10 marks decide करता है, which actually is the game changer for most of the students, I don't think you are gonna find it any difficult. Another thing is that the questions have been provided in a level wise manner, तो आप अपने preparation के हिसाब से उस level को attend कर सकते हो. Level 1 is there and level 2 is there. So according to your preparation, you can test yourself, and we have really out of the box questions, as you can see. So practicing these questions to stay one step ahead is very important if your aim is to score 100 on 100. Really engaging, really fun way of remembering things is by watching animations, movies, music, anything that is related to that particular concept, ताकि आप उस concept को एक entertaining manner में याद कर पाओ. Because I know recalling things the traditional way can get really tiring, really monotonous at times. So you can revise it, retain it, memorize it by watching animations. For example, अगर आप एक student हो, English literature को पढ़ने का, revise करने का, याद story को याद रखने का सबसे अच्छा तरीका है कि उस particular lesson से related you can watch an animation वाला video on YouTube. You can watch a movie अगर उस particular chapter पे कोई movie बन रखी है. That way visuals को हमारा दिमाग ज़्यादा easily याद रख पाता है. Really, another really nice way to remember things is by making yourself interested in it. आप एक चीज में इंटरेस्ट अपना तभी जगा पाओगे when you try to get to the depths of those things. So if you have time, what you can do is अगर आप we'll just stick to the example of English literature right now. तो इंग्लिश लिटरेचर के लेसन्स में अगर आपको इंटरेस्ट नहीं आ रहा है, आपको इंटरेस्ट बनाना है, तो यू कैन डाइव डीप इनटू द हिस्ट्री ऑफ द ऑथर. बिकॉज आई बिलीव कि हिस्ट्री जब आप किसी सब्जेक्ट की पढ़ते हो ना, योर इंटरेस्ट इन दैट सब्जेक्ट डीपन्स. राइट, आप हिस्ट्री, उसका इम्पैक्ट एंड हाउ इज इट एक्चुअली गोना बी हेल्पफुल टू यू. राइट, इट बेसिकली ओपन्स अप योर ब्रेन सेल्स एंड आपको ऑटोमेटिकली इस पर्टिकुलर चीज में इंटरेस्ट ज्यादा आने लगता है. आई रिमेंबर रीडिंग अ बुक ऑन द हिस्ट्री ऑफ इकोनॉमिक्स, and it actually changed my entire perspective of how this subject has evolved over the years, and I started to look at it at from a completely different point of view. So that is another really interesting way which helps. Another thing is that you can listen to audiobooks of those related lessons or concepts, whatever. Your podcasts is a great way. अगर आप जियोपॉलिटिक्स से रिलेटेड कुछ पढ़ रहे हो फॉर योर एग्जाम्स और जस्ट फॉर एक्स्ट्रा नॉलेज, आप उससे रिलेटेड यूट्यूब पे, स्पॉटिफाई पे इतनी सारी पॉडकास्ट अवेलेबल है, उनको भी सुन सकते हो. बिकॉज बिलीव इट और नॉट, यू टेंड टू रिमेंबर दीज थिंग्स way more easily than just reading it from the textbooks. So animations, podcasts, movies, or you can just listen to the audiobook of that particular chapter. आप बस अपने earpods plug in करो and just listen to whatever has been written in that particular chapter. एकदम शांति में बैठकर, उससे भी आपके दिमाग में चीजें बहुत ज़्यादा अच्छे से बैठती है. Other thing that you can do is simply read the chapter. I think this is also a very very underrated technique. What do you do? आप शांति में कोई भी घर का कोना पकड़ो and शांति से बैठो with just your book and a pencil or a highlighter, whatever you use in your hand. Just sit in a very comfortable position. Just start reading. Just read it with utmost concentration. कुछ ना कुछ तो दिमाग में घुसेगा ही, and you will feel कि भाई कुछ चीजें हैं which I don't think I'll ever be able to forget. Right? So just reading without doing any extra effort and just reading सारी चीजों को दिमाग से निकाल कर is also a great way. Nextly, we have relate, engage and apply. I think this is one of the most important ways जिससे आप किसी भी चीज को लंबे समय के लिए याद रख सकते हैं. I remember there used to be certain concepts in chemistry, especially soap में cell formation का concept हुआ करता था. So every time not really every time, but sometimes when I used to go wash my hands, I used to relate that particular concept जो मैंने चीज़ें किताबों में पढ़ी होती थी कि किस तरीके से foam form होता है. Why, and whenever I used to see some phenomena like rainbows in the sky, or I used to see that the sky is turning red, I used to feel like I've read this in my physics textbook. Let's relate it to what's happening, and then I try to relate and engage and apply those things in real life. So ऐसे करके क्या होता है कि जब आप real life से उन concepts को relate करते हो, तो your understanding deepens and there's no way you're gonna forget those things. Feynman technique. I've mentioned this before, but I'll mention it again with slight variations, of course. पहले मैंने बोला था कि Feynman technique में just teach, imagine a bunch of students are sitting in front of you. अब आप एक और चीज कर सकते हो, यू कैन डू दिस विद योर फ्रेंड्स एज वेल. आई ऑल्सो रिमेंबर प्लेइंग टीचर इन आवर younger days, wherein we just used to teach any subject of our choice, any favorite chapter from that particular subject to 2 to 3 friends of ours. तो हम एक एक करके टीचर बनते थे, and it was such a great way of remembering things in a fun way. I mean, no matter how old you are, no gatekeeping of knowledge. Please share whatever knowledge you have with your friends. अगर आपने आज कुछ social sciences में कुछ नया concept पढ़ा है related to economics, global economics or anything like that, don't gatekeep it. Share it with your friends. Talk about that particular thing. The more you talk about it, the more you teach others about it, the better will become your understanding of it. You can also play online quizzes with your online friends and do battles जिसमें leaderboard बन के आता है. I remember a few websites we used to use. My teachers used to use during the COVID times जब online classes चलती थी. Kahoot and quizzes. उसमें they used to basically post quizzes for us, and then the entire class used to play, and then we used to get the leaderboard. It was such a great way of revising things and learning things and memorizing things. Gamifying knowledge is actually a great way you can do stuff. So that's it for the video today. Do hit the like button and subscribe the channel if you liked the video and want more such videos in your feed.